How are you all doing tonight? My name is Bigbobbedboi, and welcome to a hunter's guide to AQ40 loot. While aesthetically even more disgusting than AQ20, AQ40 has a lot of great loot even for a full BWL geared hunter, despite AQ40 originally being a side grade to BWL. AQ40 is also called Temple of Ahn'Qiraj, unless you're classic DB where it's referred to as Template of Ahn'Qiraj. As always, we will cover non-boss drops first, then break it down boss by boss. First up are the rep rings. So the main rep we'll be receiving here is Brood of Nosdormu rep. You might already have a little bit of that from AQ20, but you'll get the bulk of your Brood rep here in AQ40. It gives us a very nice ring that upgrades as our rep does, starting at friendly. Let's go ahead and compare the Exalted ring to some other good rings we might want to replace it with, like Master Dragon Slayers. So you have 48 AP in one hit versus 24 agility in one hit. Clearly, Exalted Brood ring is better. Not only is that more AP, you get about half a crit from that as well. And then with Don Julio's, that has about half a crit over Brood ring, but at a huge AP loss, so it's not really worth it. Overall, the Brood ring is a great ring, and you're probably going to wear this all the way into next. Alright, AQ40 also brings in about 7 new enchants, and sort of 2 are applicable to Hunter. Stealth to Cloak and 15 agility to Gloves. So Stealth to Cloak adds 5 levels of stealth, so it's the equivalent of a level 61 stealthing. Just makes it a little bit harder to detect rogues in PvP, so something to keep in mind. Now 15 agility to Gloves is obviously just a straight increase over the previous best 7 agility to Gloves. But at 3 Nexus Crystals, 8 large Brilliant Shards, and 4 Essences of Air, it's going to be pretty expensive. The recipe is also a boss drop, so it may be a while before you get access to the enchant. It's definitely worth putting this on Dragonstalker Gloves, so you might want to start putting the mats back for this ahead of time. Alright, so Trash Mob drops. There are quite a few epics from Trash Mobs in AQ40, but really nothing for Hunter. There is Shard of the Fallen Star, but it's not affected by spell power in patch 1.13 as far as I know, and it's just not that great in general. It's kind of something I guess you can mess around with if you want. Trash also dropped the bug mounts, which are only usable in AQ. Make sure you get the red one. The tier 2.5 striker set. It's not very good. I think we all kind of knew that, but it really is unfortunate. They could have done some cool things with it, but it's just not good. It's pretty high on agility, but you lose a lot of stats. The 5 pieces have 3 crit, no hit. The same 5 pieces of Dragonstalker have 3 crit and 2 hit. The first set bonus reduces the mana cost of Arcane Shot. Okay. The second is actually the best part of the set, reducing the cooldown of Rapid Fire by 2 minutes. That's pretty much the only use for this set. Depending on the fight length, it could be worth it to pop Rapid Fire right away while wearing the 5 piece, then swap back to Dragonstalker. You could squeeze out a second Rapid Fire in fights where you would otherwise only get the 1, but that's a lot of effort for a really niche situation. Compare that to the 8/8 Dragonstalker set bonus. While it doesn't proc a ton, it's a nice chunk of ranged attack power, and benefits every other hunter in the raid as well. Now, even if you're wanting to play Spell Power Hunter for the fun of it, I'm not sure that this is any better than Caster Gear, because that will have a lot more spell power than Strikers, albeit no agility. Now maybe you could have some fun with this in PvP as a spell power hunter, but otherwise there's not a lot of use for this. Definitely the most disappointing hunter set in the game to me. But now we're on to bosses, so let's break that down. First boss is Scarum, not the server. He drops Barrage Shoulders, which is an amazing name for hunter gear in it. These have a decent amount of agility, but with no hit or crit, they're not any better than Giant Stalker or Dragon Stalker, even if you're not hitting an 8/8 set bonus. Not likely to have a reason to wear these. Cloak of Concentrated Hatred. It's another hit cape, this time 1 less agility than the AQ20 cape. If you still need hit at this point, there's probably a better place to make it up instead of dropping Shrouded Mists like, Falcon's Call. So you're unlikely to ever use this. A lot of AQ bosses also drop Nature Res gear that I'll mention just for completion's sake. For Scarum, that'd be Beetle Scaled Wrist Guards and Amulet of Foul Warding. Second is going to be the bug trio, those being Vem, Kree, and Yaoj. The loot they drop is somewhat determined by the one you kill last, however, that doesn't matter because they don't really drop anything for hunters. Yeah, it's like Baru all over again. I don't know what it is with these bugs not having hunter loot. Everything is supposed to be hunter loot. WTF. Third is Battleguard sartura. She drops the Silithid Claw. This is a very minor upgrade over Warblade of the Hikari. You go from 1 crit and 28 AP to 1 crit and 30 AP. Very, very small upgrade. Of course, the melee damage is also a step up over Warblade of the Hikari, but if we're melee weaving, we should be two-handing, so that's not much of a thing to consider either. More importantly, she drops Badge of the Swarm Guard. It's an unused trinket that doesn't share a cooldown with a lot of other trinkets, so it can fit in our rotation and be swapped out pretty easily, but it's really hard to pin down how good this trinket actually is. So 200 R pin times 6, 1200 R pin for up to 30 seconds. I mean, this sounds good, but is it? Old comments say it does stack up to 6 really quick, usually before there's 20 seconds left, so that's nice. Private servers had mob armor and some other numbers wrong, so we can't really go by how good it was there. So let's try and deduce this a little bit. So Classic DB says Magmadar has 4,641 armor. If that's reduced by 5 Sunders, 450 times 5 equals 2250, that would leave it with 2391 armor. That's about half of its armor left, meaning Swarm Guard would be giving a considerable damage boost, cutting it by about another half, taking it to 1191. I'm not sure about these armor numbers though. On Classic DB, a lot of bosses have the same or similar numbers for their armor. I definitely want to see this online before I conclusively say it's amazing, but from the information we do have right now, it looks really good. So fourth up is Fankriss the Unyielding. Scaled Sand Reaver leggings. Now, these pants are pretty good, but they're not really better than Dragonstalker pants. We want agility over AP if we can get it, and we also don't want to break the 8/8 Dragonstalker set bonus. These are better than Giant Stalker pants, so for some reason you don't have Dragonstalker yet, these are an upgrade over Giant Stalker. Barbed Choker. So this isn't a bad necklace, it's better than like Ive Hakar, but it's not as good as Press Doors, and that's really what we should be aiming for at this point if we don't already have it. Press Doors is just too much agility to pass up. Barb of the Sand Reaver. Oh, sweet baby Jesus, this is going to take some math. Alright, let's compare this to 2 one-handers as a stat stick first. Once enchanted, Barb has 66 agility. Remember, the 25 agility the 2-hand enchant comes out with his face. I have 53 agility for 1 crit, that's 1.25 crit. For AP, baseline is 2 AP for 1 agility, 2.3 for LR, and it goes up there with other buffs like ZG buff, Kings, etc. So I'm going to call it at 2.3, since we're not going to be fully buffed all the time. Just keep in mind, if you're fully buffed, you can get even more value out of agility. So that would give us 152 AP. As a stat stick, Barb of the Sand Reaver would be giving us 1.25 crit and 152 AP. For 2 one-handers, we'll take a look at Silithid Claw and Fang of the Faceless. That's 2 crit, 58 AP, and 30 agility. Turning the agility into crit and AP, that's 2.56 crit and 127 AP. Meaning Barb has 25 more AP at the cost of 1.31 crit. Barb definitely loses as a stat stick because that's a lot of crit. But let's compare it to weapon for melee weaving. Ahn'Qiraj is just a flat 86 AP before enchant, so Barb definitely beats it as a stat stick with 41 agility. Ahn'Qiraj has slightly higher DPS, but Barb is slower at 3.7 speed. If I punch both of these into Wowhead's gear planner with some appropriate gear, it estimates that a swing with Ahn'Qiraj is 448 to 564 damage, and a swing from Barb is 447 to 560 damage. Considering the stat gain, I'd say Barb wins over Ahn'Qiraj as a melee weaving weapon for sure, but it doesn't look as good, so who cares, right? Next up is Viscidus. The only thing he drops for Hunter is Ring of the Kiraji Fury. It's a good ring and it does have crit. We're likely to be getting pretty high on a hit at this point, but there's another ring later that I like a bit better, and we'll talk about it when we get there. Still, this is a very solid ring. Then we get to Princess Huhuran. She drops a nice big pile of disappointment in the shape of this bow, Huhuran Stinger. The agility is nice, but we know better. Osprey Thule is not going to be replaced by this. Blizzard is always trying to trick us poor hunters with these shit bows, and I don't think we should take it. Alright, Twin Imps. They drop an amazing looking sword that we won't use. Other than that, they also drop some decent enough gloves with a sweet name, but they're not worth breaking up our Dragonstalker set bonus, so ultimately we'll be passing on these. It brings us on to Ouro, and he does have some interesting stuff. Larva of the Great Worm. This is a kind of cool gun. No, it's not as good as Osprey Thule, but it is better than Rock, and it's obviously better than that stupid bow from earlier. If you've ended up in a position like me, where you don't have Osprey Thule, you're still using Rock, then grab the ammo pouch from AV, get this gun, and it's a pretty good gun. He also drops the Jum Gabar trinket, which is pretty damn nice. It starts at 75 AP and tops out at 715 AP. I think that averages it somewhere in the high 300s. Because of the ramp up time, it's maybe slightly more annoying to use than like Earthstrike, where you just get a flat AP boost, but it's not a huge deal. Again, not sure if this is going to be better than Swarm Guard in PvE, since that would depend on armor numbers. We'll need the live numbers before we can say for sure, but this is a really good on-use trinket, and I would use this over like Earthstrike. That finally brings us to old Vagina Eye himself, Cthulhu. Let's talk about the cape first. So he drops an item like other in-raid bosses, his Eye of Cthulhu. You can turn that in for Cloak of the Fallen God. Not a major upgrade, but this is a direct upgrade over Shrouded Mist, so eventually we would like to pick this up. I'm not sure what the competition will be like for Eye of Cthulhu, though. I'm not sure how bad other classes need this. And also, Ring of the Godslayer. So this is the ring I was referring to earlier. It's very close in stats to Ring of the Kiraji Fury. Around 62 AP and 0.51 crit versus 40 AP and 1 crit. I like Godslayer a little better just because of how well agility scales with buffs. If we're fully buffed, it is going to beat out Kiraji Fury. Another big thing, I'm also assuming there's just less competition for Ring of the Godslayer than Ring of the Kiraji Fury. But they're both fine rings and there's not a huge difference between the two. Lastly, let's go ahead and talk about Dark Edge of Insanity. Yeah, I'm serious. And not just because I love Soul Calibur. Assuming we have all the gear we want up to this point, according to Gear Planner, Barb would be doing 452 to 566 damage per swing. Ashkandi would be doing 453 to 569 damage per swing. And Insanity would be doing 459 to 582 damage per swing. So it definitely is doing the most melee damage. But the problem is, we're losing some solid stats compared to Barb. Around 50 AP and half a crit. That's a lot. Does the melee damage make up for it? It probably doesn't. Unless you're an Orc Hunter. Weapon skill is extremely strong for melee, beating virtually every other stat, especially for those first 5 points of weapon skill. Not only does that reduce the amount of glancing blows you get, it also increases the damage of the glancing blows you do get, so they won't hit like a flaccid penis. I'd love to get one so I could test it out, but I'm pretty sure this is better than Barbed for an Orc Hunter when melee weaving, despite the agility loss. So after getting all the gear from AQ40 we want, I'd expect to end up with something like this, but there's a little room to move around. I know I don't have DFT and I probably won't ever get it, but I hope you get one. So that's going to cover all the hunter gear in AQ40. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. Around 93% of my viewers are unsubscribed. I really do appreciate each and every one of those. They really help me and the channel out. If there's any other WoW or hunter related content you'd like to see, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. And be sure to tell me what piece of gear you're most excited for in AQ40. I know being an Orc Hunter, I really want to get Dark Edge of Insanity to play around with. That'd be a lot of fun in PvP too. I don't know what the proc rate is, but I mean, that could be so much fun. But that's all for this one. I really appreciate you all watching, and I will see you all for the next one.